Today is Thursday, November 4th. We'll tell you how paid leave and immigration got back into Democrats' social spending bill and what would need to happen for it to become law. Also, who came out on top of the surprisingly close race for New Jersey governor? Plus, the Federal Reserve's new plan to tackle inflation. Open enrollment is in full swing with new health insurance options available. And the red cups are back. Starbucks and other coffee chains are ringing in the holidays. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. The Democrats' big social spending and climate package seems to look a little different every day. Just 1 week after they stripped it down, lawmakers added a lot of big ideas back in. For starters, the 4 weeks of federally paid family and medical leave that recently got cut is now back in. Right now, the federal government requires that most workers get certain family or medical leave, but it does not have to be paid, so this could potentially change that. Dems also added in a new program that would help some 7 million immigrants who are in the U.S. without legal standing. It would let them apply for permits to work and travel in the U.S. for 5 years. And earlier this week, Democrats reached a deal to lower prescription drug costs for most older people. Now, if the bill passes, Medicare would, for the first time, be able to negotiate drug prices in its Part B and Part D programs. And it would lower the price of insulin, most commonly used for diabetes, so it would cost no more than $35 a dose. Keep in mind, all these additions are on top of a bunch of other big social and climate initiatives. Think universal pre-K for 3- and 4-year-olds. This would be a $1.85 trillion bill. A lot of the costs would be covered with higher taxes on people earning more than $10 million a year and large corporations. Still, any of these details could change. At this point, Democrats are just negotiating with each other since no Republicans are expected to get on board with this. They've said the package puts too much government into people's lives. So that means every Senate Democrat has to vote yes for this bill to pass. Democratic leaders have changed the bill again and again to appease everyone in their party, especially moderate Senator Joe Manchin. In the past, he's resisted both the paid family leave and immigration law changes, saying they should be voted on separately in a more bipartisan way. So that's why those ideas were not in this package already. But now other Dems are hoping they can get him to change his mind. Either way, the House wants to vote on this bill as soon as today. If it does pass, it will then be up to the Senate to adjust or strip out the parts they don't like. Then it would go back to the House. In other words, even if there is a vote today, this thing still is not expected to become law anytime soon. To be continued. It was an extremely close race, but in the end, New Jersey's Democratic governor ended up winning re-election barely. The race was called for Governor Phil Murphy last night. Only a few thousand votes made all the difference out of about 2.5 million ballots cast. Even though Murphy won, Democrats around the country worry they're losing support, while Republicans are encouraged. Remember, political newcomer Glenn Youngkin was elected Virginia's governor. That made him the first Republican to win statewide office there in a dozen years. What made this such a surprise is both those states have been considered reliably blue for a while now. President Biden carried Virginia by 10 points last year, and he took New Jersey by more than 15. So a lot has changed in the last year. And next year, Democrats are trying to keep their slim majorities in Congress during the midterms, while Republicans are hoping to get more power back. A lot of seats in Congress are up for grabs next year in more competitive states, so both Democrats and Republicans are taking note. The former NFL star who was charged for a deadly car crash is now out of jail, but not off the hook. We're starting to learn more details about exactly what happened. Prosecutors say former Las Vegas Raiders player Henry Ruggs was driving 156 miles an hour in a residential area before the crash. A police report says Ruggs was argumentative and uncooperative with officers and other first responders after the crash. He refused to do a field sobriety test, so investigators ended up getting a warrant to take blood from him at the hospital a couple of hours later. It turned out his blood alcohol level was more than twice the legal limit. When he rear-ended the car in front of him, that car caught fire, and the 23-year-old woman behind the wheel died. Both Ruggs and his girlfriend were also hurt, but should recover. Prosecutors say this is all particularly tragic because the NFL Players Association has been offering free rideshare services to members since 2013. The Raiders released Ruggs from the team this week after the crash. If convicted, Ruggs could face decades in prison. World leaders like presidents and prime ministers have now left the big climate conference in Scotland, but national negotiators are still there, now really rolling up their sleeves to do the dirty work. In other words, they're going through all the details in hopes of turning promises into reality. For example, the United Nations rolled out plans to fund an improvement of weather forecasts in vulnerable countries. Organizers plan to boost weather monitoring in dozens of underdeveloped countries that have done little to cause the climate crisis, but are hurt the most by extreme weather patterns. This can hopefully give people more time to prepare for flooding or help farmers manage their fields. Another breakthrough we should mention, at least 18 countries like Canada, Poland, and Vietnam promised to quit coal, both overseas and at home. Coal is the single largest source of electricity around the world, and it's the largest source of carbon dioxide emissions. So some say this new agreement is a major milestone. Others say it doesn't go nearly far enough, though, since some of the most coal-dependent countries did not sign on to this, including the US, India, China, and Australia. Earlier this week, the World Coal Association said efforts to get rid of coal ignore the fact that it's still critical to energy supply. Reports earlier this year said coal use in the U.S. has actually been going up. There's been more demand for electricity since the pandemic, and the cost of natural gas has gone up, while coal is still relatively inexpensive. More news just ahead, but we'll take a quick break now to thank our sponsor. We've talked about it right here on the Newsworthy recently, that more people are quitting their jobs. Some have referred to it as the Great Resignation. But if you're hiring, you don't have to see this as a challenging environment. You could see it as a great opportunity with Indeed's help. Indeed is a hiring partner that gets you what you really want, a short list of quality candidates as fast as possible. Because you can do it all, attract, interview, and hire all at Indeed. I know what a time-consuming process hiring usually is, and it's often when you're needing to fill the spot yesterday, right? That's why having everything in one place is so helpful. No wonder Indeed is the #1 source of hires in the U.S. and delivers 1.5 times more hires than even internal referrals, according to Talent Nest. So get started right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/newsworthy. Get a $75 credit at Indeed.com/newsworthy. Indeed.com/newsworthy. Offer valid through December 31st. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. For the first time since March of 2020, the Federal Reserve is planning to phase out its stimulus measures that have been in place because of the pandemic. The Fed has been providing extra support for the U.S. economy by buying billions of dollars worth of government bonds and other assets. We're talking at least $120 billion worth of bonds each month. But the Fed says it plans to start to cut back on those purchases, a little bit at least, by the middle of next year. The reason is mostly because of inflation. It's at a 30-year high, and it's meant higher prices for things like groceries, gas, and more. The Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell pointed to a supply and demand imbalance. In other words, Americans have gone on a spending spree recently, but the supply chain wasn't ready after the pandemic, so it's caused bottlenecks and shortages. For now, the Fed is keeping interest rates low, near zero, and that's meant to help keep borrowing costs low for things like auto and home loans. The Fed chairman says he wants to see more people back to work before raising rates again. Wall Street did not seem to mind these moves. Stocks hit record highs yesterday. So remember how Facebook made a big splash this week, promising to stop using facial recognition systems and delete the face scans of 1 billion users? Well, there's a big caveat to that. Yes, the social network is scaling back, but the parent company, now known as Meta, is not getting rid of its use of facial recognition technology for other purposes. Recode reports Meta is already looking into ways to use biometrics in its metaverse business. Metaverse refers to virtual hangouts or simulations, often using holograms or avatars. Meta even says it'll keep deepface. That's the algorithm that used to power Facebook's automatic photo tagging. One example could be collecting data about your face and body to develop a really realistic-looking avatar of you. A Meta spokesperson said the company believes it can still use the tech to serve customers in the best way, while also keeping in mind privacy and transparency. But critics worry about both bias and privacy, especially when all that personal data is in the hands of a company that has had privacy blunders in the past. To be continued. Well, here's how you know it's officially the holiday season. The largest coffee chains in the country are rolling out their festive menus. Dunkin' unveiled its new seasonal drinks and food yesterday, complete with a new holiday blend coffee, a toasted white chocolate latte, pancake minis, and more. And today, Starbucks is rolling out its new holiday-themed menu as well. It includes traditional fan favorites like the peppermint mocha and cranberry bliss bar. And there are also some new additions. In fact, Starbucks is debuting its first non-dairy iced holiday coffee, the iced sugar cookie almond milk latte. And of course, the holiday season also means the return of Starbucks' signature red cups. This year, there are 4 different ones that look like wrapped up gifts. Today Today is Diwali, also known as the Festival of Lights. The holiday is celebrated by more than 1 billion people around the world, especially in South Asia. Hindus, Sikhs, and Buddhists all bring their own cultural traditions to Diwali. But typically, people get together, have parties, give gifts to each other, and pray for a brighter future. People will often line candles and lamps throughout their homes and along their driveways. They might also buy colorful new clothes or make sweet treats. Festivals and celebrations can last for several days. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. And today we're talking about all things open enrollment and what you need to know before picking your next health insurance plan. But first, a quick break to thank our sponsor, Ritual. You all know I love to cite research, and Ritual offers plenty of it. The company says more than 97% of women 19 to 50 years old are not getting enough vitamin D in their diet, and 95% are not getting their recommended daily intake of key omega-3s. So Ritual invested in research for their Essential for Women 18 Plus multivitamin, specifically designed to help fill nutrient gaps in the diets of women ages 18 and up. The results? In a study published in the scientific journal Frontiers in Nutrition, Ritual's Essential for Women 18 Plus multivitamin was shown to increase vitamin D levels by 43% and omega-3 DHA levels by 41% in 12 weeks. It's part of the reason I feel so great about taking my Ritual vitamins as part of my everyday. I'm currently taking the postnatal vitamin, and I love knowing I'm not only getting those extra nutrients, but also the ingredients are non-GMO, traceable, and vegan-friendly, so there's no shady stuff in there. And right now, Ritual is offering my listeners 10% off your first 3 months. Just visit ritual.com/newsworthy and turn healthy habits into a ritual. That's 10% off at ritual.com/newsworthy. Now back to Thing to Know Thursday. It's time for Americans to pick or change health insurance plans. Open enrollment started this week. Remember, this is usually the only time of year you can change your healthcare plan unless you have a major life event, like if you lose your job or get married. So whether you get health insurance through work or opt for a private or government option like Obamacare, now is the time to review what plans are out there for you. They do change a little bit from year to year. And this year, you might be able to take advantage of discounts that came from one of the recent COVID-19 relief packages from Congress. Basically, a lot of people who used to make too much money to qualify for assistance before do qualify for it now. If you plan on getting health insurance through work, the deadlines vary by company. But with the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, if you want coverage to start on January 1st, you must enroll by December 15th. You can go to healthcare.gov. Also keep in mind, 17 states and Washington, D.C. have their own marketplaces too, and some of them have different deadlines. So make sure you check so you don't miss your chance to get the best care for your situation and needs for the least amount of money. All right, thank you so much for listening and for sharing the show. We'll be back with much more news tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.